Tell me if this is anything like you, because it's definitely been me in the past, right? You see Jesus and the life he lives and leads, and then you see your life. And you know you want to bridge this gap, but you can't seem to do so. You try and try and try, but your life just doesn't quite look like Jesus. That can be frustrating, and something that might be helpful for you, I know it helped me, is forming a rule of life. Now, the word rule might be a little bit scary. Just interchange it with the word rhythm, right? That seems a little less scary. Rhythm for life, a rule for life. This is something that can absolutely help you bridge the gap between where your life is now and where Jesus is. So let's learn a little bit about what a rule of life is. A rule of life is basically a set of things that you can do, practices that you want to partake in regularly that do that. They help you become more like Jesus. You know what? Scaffolding actually is a good metaphor for what a rule of life is. So imagine you start a building project. Maybe one similar to this. Maybe you're doing something on the outside of your house, and you're working on something that's a little bit high, a little bit lofty, right? Maybe like a goal similar to being like Jesus. What you might want to do is construct scaffolding, right? A temporary structure from which you can stand on in order to work on, adjust, change, and renovate a certain part of whatever you're working on. That's what a rule of life is like. It is not necessarily the structure that you're trying to build, but it sits adjacent to it. Now, the problem comes when scaffolding becomes the structure itself, right? You don't want to start nailing drywall up to your scaffolding, right? It is simply the tool that you use to build and work on what you're building up, right? So, if a rule of life ever becomes the thing you're trying to build upon, you're free to scrap it. Throw it away. It is simply a tool to help you build up. Don't let it become the thing that you stand on and try to build your life upon. Now, the actual words, rule of life, maybe came around 500 Common Era, but we have examples of rule of life all the way back to the book of Acts, right? The very first Christians, they said they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, breaking of bread, fellowship, and prayer. In a way, this is their rule of life, right? As a group, they have decided this set of practices is for us to become more like Jesus. Now, your rule of life may look very different. In fact, that's a beautiful thing about rules of life, is that they're built for the life you're in right now, right? Not necessarily the life you want. They're for your circumstances currently. In fact, whenever you're shaping a rule of life, you need to have realistic goals, realistic things that you can accomplish. Rather than building up super tall scaffolding all over in every place that you might possibly need to build, you build scaffolding right here, in this area where I need to work on now. It's important to keep those long-term goals in mind, but the rule of life is set for your circumstances, how you're experiencing life right now. Now, if you want to make a rule of life for yourself, there's a few questions that you might want to keep in mind as you're trying to pick out the different things that you want to add in to your rule of life. Things like, what types of things make me close to God? What sort of things do I do that when I'm doing them, I feel intimately connected to God? Those types of things are things you might want to put into your rule of life. Another thing you might want to ask yourself is, what's important to me? What do I desire, right? What do I want for my life? What does that goal look like? What am I trying to work on? There might be certain practices that line up with that you want to put into your rule of life, that help you, that fit right along with the thing that you are desiring for your life. And lastly, what do I want to change about my life? I mean, a rule of life is all about working you towards a new goal, and that means leaving certain things behind. What is it in your life that you want to change that is holding you back from being more like Jesus? There may be certain practices that you may not like a lot, but that stretch you and that get you to a place where you start to change these things in your life that are keeping you from being like Jesus. Keep those questions in mind as you're picking out different things that you might want to do for your rule of life. Along with that, think daily practices. Think, what do I want to do every single day? Then think weekly. What might be something that I might not do every day, but maybe once a week I want to do it. Monthly. Maybe once a month I've got time for this one thing that I want to do that might take a little bit more time. And then finally, yearly. Maybe a yearly goal or a yearly retreat, something that you do for yourself that fits into your rule of life. All of these different things will play into the things that you pick, how you order them, but ultimately, these things have to be realistic, right? We already talked about this, but it has to be a realistic goal. There's only so much we can handle. I can write a rule of life that includes every single disciplines and practices and every single little thing that I can think to do, but I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to stick to it. I need to stay realistic, right? I need to keep my rule of life very simple, right? A simple, short set of practices that, for a time, I used to grow and change myself. Maybe you're having trouble bridging the life you have right now to the life you see Jesus live. You want to bridge this gap and you're having trouble and you try, but you can't get there. Maybe rule of life is for you. Maybe you need a simple set of practices that can help guide you and push you and change you into the person Jesus is trying to form you to be. Don't stand on them, don't build upon them, but use them as the tool they are to help get you to live more and more like Jesus every single day.